All right, should we
Wait,
talk
what?
about Joker?
Editor's note: our discussion on Joker 2 was very rich and lengthy, and the cold open this episode would have pushed the total runtime to over 2 hours. The discussion was not that engaging anyway. So I decided to cut it.
Yes. Let's dive in. All right, class roster. Here we go. Joker 2, Fully Adieu. Again, I think that was a better take at it. I don't know. Uh, we have director Todd Phillips, who has done a lot of stuff, including Star is Born, all the Hangover movies, the first Joker, of course, War Dogs, and yeah, produced a bunch. Written by Scott Silver, who did Joker, also did 8 Mile. I was like, oh, this is interesting. It feels important to share. Todd Phillips, of course, also writing on this, and then Bob Kane is credited as a writer, but Bob Kane is like the creator of, I think, the Batman like world. So he'll always like. I went to go look at his credits, and I was like, oh, this wasn't like a thing. This is just like this is a rights thing. This isn't a he was in the room with them thing. And this is starring Joaquin Phoenix, of course, as Arthur Fleck, aka Joker, Lady Gaga, Stephanie Germanotta as Harley Quinn or Lee, Catherine Keener. Shout out to Catherine Keener. Brendan Gleeson is also in it, and then Zazie Beetz was in this for like a hot second as well. Did I miss any other big people?
Did you say Brendan Gleeson?
I did.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was reading the cast list and I missed it.
All good. Gentlemen.
Yeah, I think that's the roster.
What are y'all's non-spoilery thoughts on the film?
It's a movie that runs 2 hours and 20 minutes long and appears to be unfinished.
Quick hot take. Okay.
Whoa. Okay. I loved it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Yes.
That's fucking nuts. What?
I loved it. I don't know what you mean by unfinished, and let's unpack that in a little bit.
I think I'm going to agree with you for the first like hour to hour and a half of this movie. And then I don't know how you like the rest of this movie, but we can unpack that later.
There's one specific thing that happens near the end of the movie that makes me just
Okay. My non-spoilery thoughts. I feel like we were chasing if you're trying to chase two rabbits, you won't catch either, or something like that. There's the comic book movie element to it. There's the musical element to it, and I didn't feel like I got enough of either because it was doing both.
Yeah, I felt it just to be super one note, and I think it hit the same. It was just to hit the same beat. It never ventured. It appeared like it was doing something interesting, and I don't think the story went anywhere personally. What I will say, the acting performances for the most part are really good. I don't think Lady Gaga is great, but I also don't think Lady Gaga's character is written to be great. Super one note. But Joaquin Phoenix is absolutely unbelievable. Joaquin Phoenix is unbelievable.
Lady Gaga has the pipes. That's what I would say. she can sing. I mean, she's a professional singer, but I really enjoyed the parts when she sang and did her job.
Yeah, I felt like, um, and I always appreciate doing this class roster and looking at like running resumes, if you will, because I appreciate that Todd Phillips, likely when they were working on Joker 2, he was like, oh, I know just who to get for this. Because I did feel I got a similar vibe and tone as I can't remember her character's name from Stars
Yeah.
Born, but that the first act of Stars Born felt like who we got in this film. And yeah, I mean, I think I thought it was pretty well acted as well. I thought from a story standpoint, the the strokes were like still a little too broad for me. Like to not give away too much, but just to like speak very vaguely, like prison security guards are mean, like kind of a vibe.
Who would have
Uh,
thought?
I just wanted a little bit more um, nuance throughout all of it, and that's not to
There
say
are
that I didn't
two.
have a good time.
There are two locations in this movie, and the same stuff happens 90% of the time in those locations. And I don't mind a slow movie, and I don't mind a movie with limited sets, but
Before we get into it, um, I do want to preface because this will probably go up when the movie goes up. Well, we were fortunate enough to get tickets for the early fan event. I was gonna get them at AMC because that's when Dylan texted me that they were gonna be at AMC. And then a couple days later, I got an Instagram ad for Cinemark saying that they were going to show it at the exact same time in the same format. So immediately canceled my tickets and bought them for Cinemark. But that Monday, I forgot. So yesterday, I forgot I had a movie to go to. So I left. We left the house at 7, and we got there late again.
um, well, so because you sent that message when you were like AI is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
have you never gotten that have you never gotten that notification before from Maps of just like,
So
hey, traffic's moderate? I get that every day.
this is the first time that I've actually noticed that my phone has said, "Hey, you have this movie coming up. Um, make sure you prepare for it." And I think I don't remember when I sent that because I think it was like maybe 30 minutes before the screening. And then I got another notification later that was like, "Hey, this movie's about to start." And I was like, "Oh shit, this movie's about to start." So I saw that I had a movie coming up, but I just forgot that I had a movie coming up.
So
Why?
did you miss some of the opening?
I We got in as soon as he's done shaving, and it says Joker.
Oh my god,
Oh no!
you missed a couple important bits. Dang. And I'm actually surprised you still really liked the movie because that's like some of my favorite part of the movie.
Oh,
Um
interesting.
yeah.
I thought
What
I
yeah, yeah.
Well, I just figured that nerd brain, film school brain kicked in and was like, "This is the title. This is the start. Let's just."
No, it was a lengthy cold open.
Yeah,
Mm.
It actually opens with I don't even, yeah, it opens with one part which is unrelated. And then it cuts to another part which then eventually leads to him shaving. Which was one of my favorite parts of the entire movie, to be honest. Set the tone.
So, so I want to
yes.
discuss that, but I was also kind of leading to Vaughn's experience watching this movie.
Yeah, let's cut to yeah,
Vaughn,
Bon.
you
How was your
you
theater
got
experience?
there. You got
Um.
there 2 hours before.
So I
You did
was,
get there about an hour early.
yeah, I was gonna say I was off work in 2 hours before the movie started. But yeah, getting to not even just being in the theaters, just like the area an hour early because that happens all the time. But to literally be
Where'd you go? Sorry to cut you off.
Americana at Brand,
Mm.
AMC. But yeah, to have my concessions, and I literally because Dylan was waiting outside. I literally went in. I was like, I want to make sure, like, because it's a fan event, I don't know if I can rely on trailers being a thing. but like still went in, got my concessions, was still hanging out by the lobby, and like it was like 5 minutes before it was like 6:55, and Dylan was like, no, 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 just go ahead. So I like went in, sat down. I saw Maria Menounos, and I was like, oh,
Hey.
the Nuvi thing. Okay, all right. This is strange. Also, because like commercials were playing, and it just I
Yeah,
was
it's weird. It's weird.
it's super
When you
jarring.
get there
And the
early,
lights are
early,
on.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why
there
they just
was
don't show more trailers.
yeah, but I guess it's it's a part of probably a part of the agreement that like
Yeah.
at the movie start time we've agreed that we're going to play X amount of trailers and these are the ones. Um, yeah, it was interesting. Wait, are we going to tell the Van Lathan story? Is this
Yeah, fuck it.
great?
Yeah.
So Dylan texted us, and mind you, I see that I'm getting a text from Dylan on my watch, and because we have a group thread and we were individually texting, I didn't know who I was like, what was happening. So I just saw like I was informing about how close we were to the movie starting, and then I just see a text that says Van Lathan, and I was like, "What? What does this mean?" And then a photo. I don't know, Dylan, if you want to take it from there.
Yeah, so for those that don't know who Van Lathan is, he's a film, he's a podcaster, has a podcast about film, amongst other things, talks about sports, life, like race, culture. He's a very cool dude. Um, and his like kind of current, I would say, I don't even want to say if it's like a trademark right now, because and Vaughn had filled me in about the specific reason as to why, but his father passed, who I believe was a farmer. Vaughn, yes.
That tracks. I don't know,
He's
but
from Baton
maybe.
Rouge, Louisiana, but basically wore a cowboy hat. So Van Lathan is also probably like 6'3", 6'4", if not a little taller. He's taller than, like noticeably taller than me.
Yeah,
And I am like turned around the concession line and I see this like big ass dude wearing a cowboy hat. And I was like pretty sure it was Van Lathan, but I don't want to just like, I was like, hey, are you Van Lathan? And it scared the shit out of him. Because he just kind of like looked around and he was like, yeah. And I just was like, oh, hey, no, man, I'm a huge fan. And then that was it. And he just told me that Sean Fennessy, he's the head of content, I think, or like he's some bigwig at the Ringer, but also has a film podcast, was also there. And I was just like, hey, man, big fan. And then just kind of went in. You know.
but in between all of this, I've like Dylan and I are texting. He's like, he's still out here if you want to like come. Like he's at concessions, and I was like, okay, do I fan out? Do I like be chill about it? And I'm in a phase right now where I think I can be responsible. I can be responsible with my fandom and like approach a person and just say, I think the stuff you make is dope. Like, I appreciate you. I was for when I first got to LA, I definitely did have the like stardom, like the starstruck jitters, but that went away quickly. Working at the Grove will do that to you. But I'm now kind of like I feel like in a comfortable space where if I see somebody who does something dope that I appreciate, like a Van Lathan, I can just go to hey, don't mean to interrupt you too much. Just I appreciate you. Your work is dope, and go on about my life. So as we're Dylan and I are texting back and forth, and I'm like, yeah, I'll just catch him next time. And I don't know why it didn't occur to me that he was probably at the movie theater on a Monday night to see the same movie. But I I saw that trailers were starting. I was like, this is my moment. Even if there's only one trailer, that's enough time for me to go out, like pop my head out and say hey, and then come back into the theater. And as I'm like beelining out of the theater, I get to the door and I pull the door open, and Van Lathan walks through, and I was like, "Oh, um, uh," and I was not. I was still in the like the preparing part of my brain to like what I was gonna say and how cool I was gonna be about saying it. Instead, I was just like, "You're dope," and he's like, "Oh man, I appreciate that. Thank you, brother." I was like, "You got it." And yeah, the only reason I got it was to go see Van Lathan, but I can't now turn around at the door. So I kept
And then out
walking.
me for not being, for like being the nerd. Because I think I played it off pretty chill. I like just snapped a photo and just kind of like dipped out. I try not to like to say similar to Vaughn's point. Like I haven't seen anyone that it will like I think I would truly freak out at. And on the handful of times I've run into a celebrity, I try to keep it to a sentence or two because I would hate to be stopped in public. But
Hey, if you see Dylan in public, stop him.
I actually do. Please
I'm
do
gonna have
stop.
AirPods in, and I'm gonna blitz right past you. I'm just gonna let you know that right now. But then it's funny enough, a guy next to me, he had like there was a guy next to me in line. He was like, "Hey, who is that?" When I like snapped a photo, and I was like, "Oh, he's Van Lathan. He's a podcaster." Blah blah blah. So Vaughn comes out, and then we walk back into the theater, and that dude who asked me who Van Lathan is, funny enough, they were sitting right next to us. So it was the two of them. This random guy who claimed to not know who Van Lathan was sitting directly next to him, and then our seats. And throughout the movie, they were completely giggling the whole time. So I figured that it was this guy's friend, and he was just like fucking around. But then after the movie, like they didn't leave together, and me and this other guy walked out. He's like, "What's that guy's name again?" And they like became friends during the movie. And then that was it. And he was just like, yeah, he didn't know who he was, what his name was, anything like that. It was a really weird experience, but that was the best part of the movie, to be honest, was that. At least for me.
And I'm ready to jump into spoilers territory with a little segue, unless y'all have other non-spoiler things to say.
No, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm what is that? 2 for 6, I think, or like 1 for 6 in getting there, like leaving when the movie starts and getting there and missing things. So I'm really interested to know what I missed. If
I do have
Dylan is, you think it's the best part of the movie?
I have one other thing I want to say, because there were a lot of trailers. Mickey 17 trailer, which was good, and what I hadn't seen yet was the trailer for Sinners, the Ryan Coogler Michael B. Jordan movie, which looks dope.
Yeah.
And Vaughn turned to me just when like after the 6th trailer or whatever, and he was like, "Y'all do this every time." and I said, "Couldn't be me." But yeah, it was. So
how else are you supposed to know? How else are you supposed to know what's coming out if you're not watching a trailer?
Also, now you might understand why I have like references, because if I'm seeing, let's say I'm seeing one movie a week, maybe sometimes 2 movies a week, and I'm watching the same trailers over and over and over. Yes, fucking shout out. Yeah.
I think with the way I go to the movies, because I don't even really watch TV that much. Like in the TV I do watch, there's usually like very few commercials, if any. So for me, there are definitive movies that are going to get me in the seats probably at least once, maybe twice a month, to be fair. Along those On those journeys for me to go get that ticket, as I'm scrolling through, and I think this is maybe a strategy of the app itself, but I'm looking at, usually I want to catch something the day it comes out, so I'm in the coming soon section, and as I'm looking for my movie, that's when I start to see posters for other movies. I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. Tap. I'll look at some info. I'll look to see who's involved. I go, oh yeah, remind me. And then like when tickets go on sale, I'll go. And then along the way, like, the social media apps and stuff will have ads. And I'm like, okay, if I see this Venom horse one more time, I'm gonna lose it. But Venom comes out in like a couple weeks.
Weirdly, I've only seen that trailer once, and I don't know why.
It's the algorithm. Like
But
I'm
Theater algorithm.
entrenched in comic stuff, so
but
I'm getting.
it's not like I'm not, though. It's not like I'm not a comic book fan, but I follow Culture Crave, I follow Discussing Film. Like I like that stuff should still come up naturally, and I go to enough fucking movies and watch enough trailers. You know what I mean?
I think it depends on the type of movie you're watching, though, because Venom is a comic book movie, but also like a big budget movie. So if you're going to go watch Megalopolis, you're probably not going to see Venom. If you're going to go watch Joker before it comes out, you're probably not going to see Venom. if you're watching Transformers, you're probably not going to see Venom because that's a different demographic. You gotta have to hit it at the sweet spot of like comic book adjacent and also big budget adjacent to get targeted with these ads.
Yeah, but all those movies are big budgets. Megalopolis is $150 million.
But
Like
also
Joker
in
is a
this
literal comic book movie, and
example,
Transformers is a nerd culture movie. Sorry for cutting you off.
you're good. I cut you off. In this specific example, we're talking about a DC movie versus a Marvel movie. Like, of
Oh,
course,
true. Yeah.
of course, they're not.
That's
Gonna,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Duh.
but yeah, that's usually how I get my movie news. Okay, and I also wanted to say, just as we segue into our spoiler territory, I didn't hear this, so I'm kind of like stealing this story from Dylan. But apparently, Van Lathan a couple times throughout the movie were like leaned over and was like, "Do you get it?"
The guy said to
To
this
the
random guy, which is why, because they were yucking it up, and he turned over, and that's when we were walking out, he was like, yeah, he's so cool. And at one point during the like towards like midway through the movie, he was like, are you getting this? Are you understanding this? And he's tweeted out that he didn't like it, but which I get. And which is crazy because I really liked the first movie. And I think a lot of the criticisms for the first movie are fucking lame. And I think a lot of the critiques are so fucking lame and like Bernie Mac meme, like touch grass for a lot of the criticisms of this movie. But it just is like, yeah, Joker 2, Folia Poo. There you have it, folks. That's my fucking review of this movie.
Question immediately. When did you come up with that?
He stole it.
I really didn't. I didn't
steal it. Now I'll give you $20.
I came up with it like I was like thinking about it during this podcast, and I have a tab like so it's like Riverside, and then the next tab just says Joker Folia Do. And I've just been like trying to think of what the episode title name would be, and that was my name for the episode title. Yeah,
fair enough,
buddy. I write headlines. That is my job. That is my New York Post, hire me.
To fill you in, Jose, and this I think it did kind of position me for how to take in the movie. The part you missed in the very beginning, I think, was pretty important. And I know, Dylan, you're saying like it had nothing to do with the rest of it. I think it did set the tone, but I think it also poses a greater Batman question, just about like all of like Batman, like Batman world. And it starts with a cartoon, in true like Warner Brothers style. And it's a cartoon of Joker going to like a red carpet and then going in to like, I guess what kind of show would you say it was, though? I'm trying to remember.
It looked like he was a star of some kind of late night show. Looked like what it was, and I mean you can go, yeah.
And just as he gets out of his limo,
the cartoon is called Joker in His Shadow, I believe. The title card says Joker in His Shadow, I believe. That's the only other thing. Yeah.
And which is important because as soon as he's trying to like go in, he like is yanked back, I think, or like notices his shadow is like separated from him. And we see that like antics start to ensue where like the shadow like takes his clothes, takes his makeup, goes on stage and like does a lot of like horrendous, heinous stuff. Joker eventually he like gets like locked up like and like tossed in like a dresser or something, like hops out. Him and his shadow start singing together, but as the shadow has like caused all this chaos, the police are called and make their way in. And as the police get closer and closer, Joker finally overcomes the shadow, gets his clothes back, like still has his makeup on, and like the two of them, they're singing a duet together. And the shadow just kind of like slinks away, no longer having any of the evidence or like linking stuff. The police come in and immediately like beat the shit out of him.
Like to a ridiculous extent.
Like
this is all cartoon.
Blood
it's all
blood
cartoony,
splattering all over the wall.
Yeah. And then like the movie starts. And the thing that stood out to me, and I was like, okay, so we're doing this, is that there are lots of theories about Batman, right? But like the idea is that, or one of the theories is that Batman is who is the base form of the person we know as Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne is the mask, not Batman. Like Batman is who he is at his core. And when like when we see this like Joker in his shadow thing, I was like, oh, we're seeing Joker in his own foil, like in the form of his shadow. And Joker, and actually all of Batman's rogues are all a foil of him in some capacity. So like we have Joker who like speaks to his morality. We have Penguin who is also like from an affluent family but like took a different path. We have the scientist and Dr. Freeze. Like every rogue in his gallery has some sort of foil to who Batman is. And so to watch a film where it's just Joker and see how his foil works, and I appreciate the question they pose, which is, you know, like who, like if we can plead insanity, if we can convince everybody that you have what we present day will call dissociative identity disorder, but at the time they were calling multiple personality disorder. But if we can separate Joker from Arthur Fleck and we can pin all the bad on Joker, we can get you out of this situation. That question, and even with the cartoon to lead up to it, is interesting to me. The execution of it all left me wanting more.
Yeah, because it felt it yeah, the in hindsight, and even in the moment, I was like, well, this is probably going to be a callback to something, and it did feel very much like who Arthur Fleck is as a person. He feels like, and even in the movie, it felt like he's like struggling with this like Joker title, and that even what happens by the end of the movie when he does his whole like, I'm not the Joker, or the Joker isn't real type of thing. It kind of feels like he's been struggling with that, like keeping up with whatever that shadow, like what the real Joker or whatever is. That's how I kind of took it. But yeah, fumbled at the execution and IMO.
Even in both of yours retelling of what I missed at the beginning, that just makes me appreciate it a lot more, because the entire cartoon
Definitely.
bit,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
entire cartoon bit is the story of the movie. To your point, Vaughn, it's this whole lawyer drama of is he not insane? Is the Joker real? Is he not real? But why I liked it um, was more of just the origin story of Gotham itself. And I think you mentioned it before, Vaughn. I don't know if it was on pod, but for most, if not all, Batman things, Gotham City is a character, and you can't have Batman without Gotham. And this, to me, Joker 1 and Joker 2, is just a 6-hour origin story on Gotham, the city. And to sprinkle in a little bit of Harvey Dent being Harvey Dent things, even having like and we're way into spoilers now, but even having the shrapnel be his Two Face, and the guy who ultimately is going to become the Joker at the very end of the movie, just sets up a lot of what could happen. But I think Todd Phillips even said that this is not a comic book movie. This is a movie about the character without the superheroes, because unfortunately you can't really have as great as like the Nolan Batmans and the Matt Reeves Batmans are, you can't have a superhero story be told realistic, because ultimately that's not realistic. No matter how hard you try, it's just not a realistic way to, or it's not a just way to interpret this fantastical character in a grounded scenario, because nothing is going to do it justice. And this does as close as it could be before it tripping into a lot of the nonsensical billionaire, trillionaire Batman stuff. Like, even if you even if you had like a very early Batman with like the Maronis and the Falcones, like just straight up gritty Italian mobster type things,
Yeah.
if you then bring in this guy dressed up as a bat, like just the idea that this guy dresses up as a bat is goofy enough to discredit it for any sort of realistic take. It's a
I
grounded
think
take, but it's not a realistic take.
I think the Batman handles it really well. He just gets made fun of. They just fucking make fun of him. Like he just like shows up and they're like, "Why the fuck is this freak here?" Like literally, like what? Like he dresses like a fucking bat. Um, and it's just Gordon. Gordon's the only one that can like kind of like convince them that there are other things. Um, the what?
I just I really do enjoy the Batman. I saw it twice, I think, in theaters both times. But when I think about the Batman, and you mentioned Gordon, I was thinking about, was that Jeffrey Wright
Mm-hmm.
as, as Lieutenant Gordon or Commissioner Gordon, and the whole movie. I love Jeffrey Wright so much. Let me just start there. The whole movie, it looked like it was Jordan Peele doing a
He just like
parody of a gritty like, cop.
especially when he's like, "You gotta punch me in the face."
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
I couldn't
Jordan
separate that in
or
my brain. The whole
I am
watch.
about to say Jordan Peele's so good. Jeffrey Wright is so good in that movie. I'm gonna disagree about the Gotham character bit. Like, I don't think Gotham is a character, especially in the second movie. In the first movie, a little bit, but they're leaning heavy into New York City, in my opinion, especially in the first movie. Um,
How do you
and
mean?
they even, I like, I they say in the second movie they say the state of New York, the state of New York, the state of New York. Even though I believe, and Von, isn't Gotham supposed to be more New Jersey than New York? Anyways, like, isn't it kind of meant more to be more
They
Newark? But
switch
I'm
it up.
sure they just kind of like, and they also like to pretend it's like Oakland, kind of in like proximity to what is it, Metropolis?
Mm-hmm. Superman
Yeah.
City.
Yeah,
So uh, each iteration that we get of
yeah.
these worlds is going to be slightly different. Like Nolan's version of Gotham was Chicago inspired. Um, what you got?
It's Chicago, Pittsburgh, and I think each movie it's shot in different. It's like some
Yeah.
parts are in Pittsburgh,
Yeah,
and then in one movie it's New York, and then another movie it's Chicago, and it's really distracting.
yeah. I can say the first Joker, having lived there, grown up there, even for a lot of my life, the first Joker feels like Newark, New Jersey, in like the grittiness of it, and that does lend itself to the Batman v Superman world where we discover that Metropolis and Gotham are across the river from each other, which would make sense for a New York and like Newark, New Jersey, like North Jersey, New York City, like comparison or relationship. Um, yeah, for them to say "State of New York" all those times, that I
It
felt
was
like that.
distracting.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because famously, although there are you like Washington D.C. exists in the DC universe, but all the heroes are for the most part from made up cities: Star City, Central City, Metropolis, Gotham, etc. Very few people are from like known cities, and I think that that's another noteworthy difference of like Marvel and DC is that everybody from Marvel is from, for the most part, real cities, except when atrocities happen, and those happen in fake cities for the most part, except for the one in Stamford, Connecticut, because that's real.
What happened in Stamford, Connecticut?
We'll talk about House of M another time.
Okay, that's where WWE headquarters is. Yeah, I don't know. I just
So
didn't feel like it was a character. That's all.
the reason I say that is the first one, for a lot of its praise or a lot of its criticisms, came out in a very politically charged time in the country, and a lot of those parallels were drawn with what the narrative is of the first one. And so a lot of the second one, and even in Harley Quinn's own motivations, is kind of embracing a lot of that energy that came with the events of the first one. The fact that this guy, who is for all intents and purposes a nobody, did something horrible on live TV, but then inspired this like wave of like people being fed up with the way things are and this sort of revolutionary kind of mindset in Gotham City to then go into such a politically charged trial to then cause acts of terrorism to then kind of set the seeds of the kind of Gotham that the Batman is starting to develop. Because Batman's origin story is his parents getting murdered, and to a certain extent, murder is always in a city. That's just crime is always around in a city. But if now that Batman has grown up, Bruce Wayne has grown up, and is living in this time of such political divide because of Arthur Fleck, that's just setting those seeds for him to come in eventually. It's a shame we're not going to get it, but at the same time, it's kind of cool that we're not.
Then we're not going to get what?
We're not going to get a Todd Phillips Batman.
Yeah.
Like it's
Although,
it would
honestly,
be
the more
really
Todd Phillips
interesting.
opens his mouth, I'm kind of glad. Dude's obnoxious.
Ooh. Give me two little tidbits.
Can't make comedies anymore because of woke culture.
Copy.
Then like a lot of shit like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. That to you, that's just to like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
uh,
And like I think he directed like Old School and shit like that. Like he directed a lot of the like
Yeah.
90s, like 2000s, like kind of comedies, or like was involved in that scene. So yeah.
Yeah. I will say, knowing the character of the Joker, like comic character of the Joker, I did feel like ultimately this did make me feel better about the Joker character overall, because two things are famously true about the Joker. One, he's completely unpredictable, and two, he's his origin is always caused in the question. Like there is no consistent origin of Joker. Like we know that Bruce Wayne, went to the theater with his parents. They were going down Crime Alley because you idiots would go down a street called Crime Alley, and they die. Crime happens in the alley. Go figure. And that like leads us to Batman.
Okay.
Like
Canonically, that alley is called Crime Alley.
yes.
That's dumb as
But
hell.
it's right next to the best opera house in the city. How else are you going to enjoy theater if not on the corner of Crime Alley and like Murder Boulevard?
Oak Street was taken or booked out. But like the Joker does like and they kind of play with it in the Nolan movies, but like Joker has wildly different origin stories.
Yeah.
Every
My
time we
father was
hear
a drinker, and then like my wife, whatever the fuck. Yeah.
yeah. And so I appreciate that like there are three trails that lead to like who the actual Joker is or what his origin story is, and the failed comedian, aka Arthur Fleck, that story is one of them.
Shout out to The Killing Joke.
Just want to say we are 20 minutes into the review and have not talked about the story at all, and I don't think that is I think that is telling.
I don't think so. Do you have particular gripes with the story besides
I
it?
think it is the horse meme. I think it is the drawing horse meme. And I think it starts out fantastic and it plants a lot of seeds, and then nothing happens and nothing happens. There's a terrorist attack. He escapes and goes to the one place you returns to the scene of the crime. Escapes and is immediately caught and is then killed, found guilty, and then killed. So
Because
I don't know. I thought that it was useless, other than a way of just like, hey, he's not the Joker, or the Joker is like, it's just like none of it mattered, and not in a way that was like an interesting. It was like there just felt like there were a lot of themes that were thrown against the wall, and then for like none of it to really matter and for there to be no story or real character development. Yeah.
Isn't the Joker first one the meme where he's like, I realize life or like life used to be a comedy or a tragedy, and he used to think it was a tragedy, but it's a comedy, right? That was the first Joker. That was a line or part of the marketing for it. Am I
That
remembering that
feels
correctly?
right.
And then this is the inverse of that, where now it's a tragedy.
Yes, sir. This is a 6-hour origin film, and it's an origin film on Joker. Like, as much as Batman is a symbol, and that's kind of like the thing with uh, all Batmen, that he is the symbol for justice and the symbol for vengeance. The Joker in this 6-hour story is a symbol for whatever you interpret it as in the political culture of 2024, or in just a character that is Gotham. Like the fact that, again, Harley Quinn's whole motivation to fall in love with this guy, which is kind of an inverse on Harley Quinn's actual motivation or actual character. Because her character is that she is a psychiatrist, like a psychiatrist assigned to work on the Joker case, ends up falling in love, has a whole Stockholm syndrome thing, to then flips on the Joker. But in this one, the Joker flips for her, and her whole motivation is to kind of bring into this chaotic, anarchistic, or anachronistic.
I think you said it right the
I
first time.
Yeah, like the idea of what the Joker
Talk
is
about anarchy or an
anarchy.
anachronism.
Yes.
Okay.
Nope. Anarchy. But her whole motivation being trying to make this guy or this symbol real for him ultimately to fight himself and say, you know what, I don't want to be this person. I don't want to be this martyr. I realized I fucked up, and now I've started something, and now I can't go back. Going back to the cartoon that I missed, him and his shadow are two parts of the same coin. Ultimately, he gains control. He is Arthur Fleck. He is not Joker, but it's too little too late because he's already, for one reason or another, done the things that he's done and started the ball rolling on something that he's not going to ultimately see the ends of, because the guy who kills him is now the new Joker, and he will more than likely take on the moniker of Joker, and he has the scars and he has the laugh and he's psychotic, and maybe he will embody that a lot better than Arthur Fleck did, or maybe he will take up the mantle of Joker, and maybe Harley Quinn will fall in love with that guy in the traditional Harley Quinn Joker things. But this was never about Arthur Fleck being the definitive Joker of this universe. This was the mantle of Joker being existing in this narrative that is Gotham, like this medium that is Gotham City.
Go ahead,
I
Dylan.
don't. I don't. I. All of that sounds really good. That we watched two different movies then. Like that's just not. That's not what I was sold. He had multiple visions in which he's the Joker. He like it. None of it. None of it made sense. Like in that pitch, he's having fucking 75 goddamn like mental like disassociations where he's the Joker in these like musical things. Um, I'm not necessarily buying a whole lot of that, other than at the end, yeah, the guy appearing to be Bon and I both thought he was going to be Zaz, but it appears that he's like the Joker because he's doing the what
And
looks
his
like he's
laugh
doing the
is
yeah, and
chilling, chilling,
I didn't really.
top tier laugh. Top tier laugh, dude. Come on. That's that laugh alone, 2 points, dude. Oh my god.
No.
It was a
I
decent laugh to me.
Yeah, I thought it was not bad, but like no, the best part of the movie to me, honestly, not even like I don't know about this. The best is actually I think when he's like screaming at the jury because there's just like Joaquin Phoenix is so in his bag. But like the movie opening with him just in prison and he's upset and it's like a long single take of just him coming out of his cell and like taking his little fucking piss trough thing and like dumping it, and like like they're just, you're seeing how he's been like beaten down in prison, essentially, literally, physically, emotionally, mentally. I don't know, to me really set the tone, and I dug how slow paced it was, and it just felt like there were all these like minor crescendos to something that would happen, and then just nothing happened. And it didn't feel like any of it was cohesive, and it did not feel like any of the scenes were inherently leading, I shouldn't say none of them, a lot of the scenes weren't necessarily leading into the next in a way, and it was just things were happening and then they were being cut at the like, I was just watching a bunch of scenes is the best way I could kind of describe it. And then I didn't think the terrorist attack made any fucking sense at all.
Really?
What?
I think the terrorist attack, to jump in real quick, that I think all of it speaks to the whole foil thing, and the fact that Harley walks out of the courtroom after he says like he gives it up and like I wasn't, there is no Joker, it was just me and whatever. I think the terrorist attack shows us that the concept of the Joker is greater than Arthur Fleck.
Yeah. I found it highly unlikely that a car bomb would be able to go off at a really high profile, like court case. As an Irishman, I found that improbable. But yeah, I don't know. And it just like what felt like was going to be a major moment, which was like him running in the street. That shit's like 15 seconds. They like milked the fuck out of that in the trailer. I don't know. It just felt silly. It felt really silly and not finished.
You're silly for watching a trailer, is what you are. Sorry.
Yes. Clearly.
Don't watch trailers.
Yeah, I was just let down. It's not bad. It's not like it's just like I felt like I just didn't watch a complete story. It just felt like I watched something that just like, honestly, I took it the inverse. It almost felt like he was trying to like fight back against the criticism of like, oh, people think that this is like, you know,
Todd Phillips.
Yeah, in a way, it was like, oh, this is like, you know, people think that this is some, you know, endorsement of like incels. Well, this is what incels are really like, or something. I don't know. Like, it was just fucking. It just seemed lame. Like, I just didn't. None of it cared. I walked out of that movie now just being like, ugh, whatever.
So in the IRL trial that is Arthur Fleck versus Gotham, do you think that he has remorse for what he did, or do you think he enjoyed what he did?
I think he would probably be put into an insane asylum for the rest of his life.
Well, Arkham Asylum is an asylum, even though it's run like a prison. Shout out to Alcatraz, by the way. Did you catch that?
No, I thought it was Rikers.
It looked like Alcatraz to me.
No, it's got a big ass highway to it.
Does Rikers have a highway?
I mean, Alcatraz doesn't.
I mean, CGI?
Maybe they like filmed. I get you. I hear you. I wasn't really paying that much attention to it in that sense. I think Rikers has a highway to it. Bon, I'm going to cut to you. Because you grew up slightly near there.
Yeah. And I can't recall.
Yeah.
I'm so
a
sorry.
Highway to a prison seems kind of dumb.
But then how else do you get to, well, ferry, I guess. I'm like,
but that's kind of the reason why they like closed down Alcatraz too, because it was a fucking hassle.
Yeah, I mean, do you think he has remorse for what he did? Because the reason why this narrative works for me is because he was doing what he wanted, and this is the other narrative is the Harley Quinn Joker love story, which I also really enjoyed, a tragic love story. When he's singing to her in the interview, like tears, like bawling up, there's so much emotion there. And Joaquin Phoenix is just top tier. But he's doing what he's doing because he loves this girl, or he has the idea that this girl loves him, and so he's even Hema said it in the movie, like, oh, she's manipulating him. Yeah, I don't think that Arthur enjoys being the Joker, because otherwise he would be a bit more animated in prison. And if you're saying that the cold open was just him being down and defeated, that means he is feeling remorse for his actions and he understands that what he did was bad. Even in the killings in the first movie, he doesn't he doesn't feel joy in that. He just does it because that's something that he like lashes out in. He is unfortunately suffering from a mental illness and he's not all there. And not to say that that justifies his actions, but he is clearly not taking responsibility for those actions in the way that a sane person would. And I don't mean to say that he's insane, I'm just saying that he's different. He's neurodiverse. Bless you.
I
But
get that.
he's playing into this character. I mean, he shows up to prison with, or he shows up to court in his full attire. Bless you again. And he's planning on having this whole speech because he pulls up a cigarette, he pulls up a stool, he looks at the camera, and the judge is like, "Hey, this isn't a stage." And just in his stare into the camera is when he realizes, "No shit, this is not a stage. This is not a fantasy. This is real life. I am doing these things and I am ruining my life." And that's when he has his spiel about the Joker not existing. And at the end of the day, it's Arthur Fleck. He never wanted to be the Joker. He was fed the ideas that he is this powerful being because everybody latched onto this idea, and he was basically following the self-destructive path of trying to live up to these expectations that he just unfortunately did not align himself with. Everybody is telling him to be this thing, and he doesn't want to be this thing.
I see that. I get it. Like there, and I think there's a lot of evidence to support what you're saying. I think too, and I'm wondering. I often harken back to why this podcast came together in the first place, and what is so unique and special about each of our individual experiences and lenses that we see things through. And I think one of the trickier things for me is I can see all that, and as you explain it, and I think back to the movie I saw, I'm now like the my mental image of the script is coming to light a bit more, and some of what I feel like for me was missing is some of that like stage direction and some of the like like I've seen some incredible prose in a script before that gets well acted, or like the cinematography supports whatever like the writer has written down. But I in this case, I'm like that shift that you described about like when he's sitting down is a reminder that he's not at a comedy club. I can now see how the script would have like beautifully spoke to what that scene and what that moment is. I just didn't get that translation in the moment myself. Like that didn't fully lift for me off the page.
Yeah, especially because like the story that they're telling is the inverse, and like he becomes more and more like the Joker as the movie is going on. And personally, that kind of then like downfall after it just didn't feel particularly earned. The way that it's all like played, like the way that you're explaining it. Todd Phillips should have hired you.
You still
Um,
should, by the way.
yeah, honestly,
Please.
For Folia Trace, but Toi. Sorry, I took French in middle
Right
school.
there.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, it's just not what I saw. I get like what the beats that you're doing, but like that execution failed for me.
Another thing that was a little tricky for me, and this is probably the trickiest bit for me, is the incorporation of music and musicals in the story.
Yeah. And
I
as
guess
someone
there
who
was a
doesn't
Gilmore
watch
Girls song
musicals,
Wait,
or Golden
what?
Girls.
Which Golden Girl song? What?
I don't know. I saw Van Lathan tweet about it.
Oh,
I didn't. He didn't see what it was. He just said like the Golden Girls needle drop was insane. I'm not going to rewatch the movie to find it, but
as someone who doesn't watch musicals, um, add this to the list. First of all, um, but second of all, I understand that most musicals tend to kind of move the narrative along. At least I would hope. And the musical segments move along the narrative for Joker falling in love with Harley Quinn. And there is some, because most of them I think are him singing, which just goes to show how romanticized his relationship is. There are like the one or two songs that Harley sings, but they're not as personal or as like invested in the theatrics that is a musical number. Like I think they sing a couple duets, don't they?
they
Or
do.
even
Yeah.
like the duets that they do sing,
yeah.
they're not like quite. They're not actually all there. They, I think there was an interview with
There's
Todd Phillips that asked like why a musical or like something about like the idea that this is a musical, which by the way caught a lot of people off guard at my screening. As soon as the lights turned on, everyone was like, "What the fuck? This is a musical? So much singing!" Like, yeah, guys,
did no
did you
one watch
guys
the
not
fucking trailer for this
did no
movie?
did
Or
did no
heard
one
any
know this
You
was
were
a
there for the
musical?
fucking fan event.
People were mad, dude. People were mad. People were mad this
The
was a
fuck?
musical.
What? Lady Gaga's in a Joker movie, and they're just like, "Oh, what a weird casting choice." Also, by the way, she did not need to be in this movie. They could have
She's
been
got
any fucking
pipes, dude.
actor.
Pipes.
Didn't use them
Did you hear her rendition of That's Life? The credits?
in the credits. I love that. That's awesome. Fantastic. I think I walked out by then.
As a person
But
who does enjoy and knows a lot about musicals, I do have a lot to say about this part, but I'm gonna
Please,
let y'all
please.
cook
No, 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 no,
first.
no, no, no. Please. I think that this is my take and this is my piece, and it's probably not that high of a take. The musical bits were meant to carry along the idealized relationship between Harley and Joker. That's it. They were not necessarily real. And I think that's the interview that I was mentioning. Todd Phillips said that the musical numbers aren't necessarily real. It's all happening inside his head. It's all
yeah,
just this fantasized, romanticized kind of idea that is love in this toxic relationship.
yeah. I think for the most part, they're all mostly not real, except for like one of the times in the courtroom in his head, he's like going through one of the musical numbers. But then I think of like when he's like telling Lady Gaga to stop singing. Um, but they did not feel fantastical or fantastical enough, and they did kind of feel mostly honestly irrelevant in a way. And I'm confused as to why you bring someone like Lady Gaga in and not really ever let her truly cook as much as like it would have been cool to see her like go all out actually as Harley Quinn, and instead we just get her walking up a set of stairs with some
Yeah.
makeup on for like 2 seconds.
Which was all over the trailers too, by the way.
Yeah. And I'm not like, and I've only really watched the trailer once or twice, but they sold a very different movie, which I don't inherently hate, but not a lot happened in this movie. And they sold it like a whole lot was going to happen. And I don't necessarily, I don't mind like deception, but
Except
it's
when they're
just
called
like a,
Decepticons.
yeah, when you have to name, when you have to like say that's why, yeah, I am gonna um have an issue with that. But
Here's the
um,
thing. I'm gonna just
yeah,
jump in
go
real
for it.
quick.
Go
Yeah,
for it.
yeah, yeah.
I
Go,
might be here for a second. Bear with me. Okay. Some foundation musicals. The idea of musical theater is that the idea of acting, which you have to have a basic understanding of before we get into musical theater. The One of the things we learn early on in our acting careers, or one of the things I learned early on, is that you are saying the words you're saying because you have to. Like silence is not enough. Like you have to improve upon the silence so you speak. And the idea around musicals is that speaking, like whatever you're feeling, whatever that emotion is, speaking is not enough. You have to sing whatever you're going through, whatever your experience is. So it's supposed to speak to a very, very heightened state. And in that regard, I get it, and it does totally line up for this film. What gets tricky for me is and this is why I was saying like we're kind of like chasing two rabbits and we're not really going for either. There's a lot of things that are good in concept, but I feel like the execution was left lacking. Like I think it does make sense to like I can follow the musical theater, the musical theater train, but when we pick, because we're essentially working with a period piece, because this is supposed to take place I guess in what, the 70s or 80s, based on the attire, which does speak to the choice of musicals, and also speaks to like the golden age of musicals, which was like the 50s and 60s. The issue though is that as an audience in the 2020s, we don't have as much of a tie-in or connection to the songs selected. Like I happen to have been in a production of Sweet Charity, so when they sang If They Could See Me Now," I was like over the moon. And like I've heard, one or two of the other songs, but I'm like I'm not like I wouldn't be able to like get a master's degree in musical theater tomorrow, but I know my fair share, and a lot of the stuff was foreign to me. And when I think about the intersection, the Venn diagram of musical theater nerds and people who are going to go see Joker 2, they're basically two different circles. I feel like there might be me and like six other people who are like occupying that intersection, and we don't get like I would have been more intrigued to see them do more of a jukebox musical, which is like your Moulin Rouges, where they're doing popular songs, or like pop culture songs
And they
in the
sold it as a
context.
jukebox musical. That was the
And that's
specific word they used.
and that's my issue, is that like you could have the narrative of like this is a heightened moment, or this is how these lyrics in this one song apply to this situation in this movie. That could have been done a lot more intentionally, but instead we got something that was mostly period, thus alienating most of the audience who's coming to see this in the first place.
I didn't recognize a single fucking song.
I didn't either, but
I got the
I
vibes of them, but yeah.
exactly. And if musicals being such an important piece of film history and art history as a whole, then allowing this new movie to kind of shine a light to the genre and some of the songs that, for all intents and purposes, are like classic or exemplary of the genre, I think it's good. And if you got the overall vibes and were able to still follow along to the lyrics, to a lot of what they're singing about, it works. Like the the first song, and he's like, for the first time, something like that. Not the first time in forever. That's from Frozen. But whatever whatever that song is, when he's watching the cartoon and he's
For
like
once in my
dancing,
life,
for once in my life, I think. Yeah, yeah.
which I think is a Stevie Wonder song, or I know Stevie Wonder's done a cover of it at least.
Well, I assumed it was from a musical. Anyway, the story of that song in the story of the movie plays along with his, uh, again, relationship with Harley. When he sings to her, when he dedicates his ballad in the interview, again just brought me to tears when they're singing "We're gonna build a mountain," and he thinks that this is like his entire life is going to be dedicated to this person, and there's just such a atmosphere and such a joyous kind of like vibe to it. Um, and maybe that goes to say that Harley's song is that's entertainment because she doesn't want him. She wants Joker,
She wants the
and
show.
she's playing this up because this is entertainment, you know. And I'm sure there's something in the lyrics to that that I didn't quite catch the first viewing, but there's something in those lyrics that probably attaches itself to Harley's motivation.
Yeah,
So I appreciate your context into why someone would sing versus someone would talk. I still thought that it worked for me.
for sure. I think two quick things. For Once in My Life, definitely a Stevie Wonder song from the album For Once in My Life, 1968, which Stevie Wonder is just incredible and has been around so long. Also,
I met him.
same.
You just gonna drop that you met Stevie Wonder?
Yeah, he came into my place of work in DC and listened to his own music
Because when
Bold.
you
whilst eating fish and
Bold.
chips.
love that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to circle back and say I do think the casting of Lady Gaga does make sense, and I think it was necessary. And I think her run, her run with Tony Bennett when she was doing a lot of like the crooning hits and stuff, I think totally is what set her up to be cast in probably like Stars Born, but also this film.
Yeah.
And given the era of musicals that they were like
Yeah.
harking back to, you would need someone like she is the right pick.
If they like let her sing more, I'm more like frustrated about this movie, if anything. Like I just like there's a world where I think this works, and like how, like, Jose, how you feel about this, I'm almost like jealous in a way, to be honest. Because I wanted to like this and I really dug the first movie, and I could kind of see a path early on when it's, and it just, by the end of it, it did not work for me, and the execution really fell flat. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just like kind of bummed and annoyed more than anything else.
I get that. Even some of Emma's criticisms were along those lines because for the first time in a while, I've actually seen her like lock in to a movie, and she hasn't seen the first one. So coming
Oh my
into the
God.
second one, yeah, coming into the second one completely blind and also missing the first like 15 minutes, but she was locked in, and she was enjoying everything up until, yeah, like that third act, and she was like at the end of the movie she was like, yeah, that was kind of dumb. Like, what's with the musical bits, you know, like what's with the story bits? And you need a lot of the context of the first one to really understand the
Yeah.
second one, even though that they're mentioning the events of the first one. Just knowing the events doesn't give you enough context to appreciate the second one. That's why I say that this is a 6-hour origin movie. It's not a Dune Part 1 and plus Dune Part 2 to understand the world of Dune. This is the first half of the movie. There's a 3-4 year intermission. This is the second part of the movie, and you need to watch the entirety to understand what this character is, the character of Gotham.
Ooh. And that's it's a take, and I get it. um yeah, I needed a stronger execution. I don't disagree with anything you're saying.
I will give you I will give you guys that it could have been done better, but I appreciate it for what it is.
Another thing, unless y'all had something else to say about this particular element, but another thing that stood out to me um, is the idea of an unreliable narrator, which we know, like they told us in the first Joker, like it's a thing with Arthur because of like his relationship with Sophie, played by Zazie Beetz. And because of that, I went into this film ready to like. I feel like I left every scene in my short-term memory like bank ready to like to be thrown out, and so it was taking me a little bit longer to like stick with the story because I had to be like, okay, no, this is real, this is happening, or this is real, this is happening. I've like musical numbers aside because I know that like I get that device, but I guess the one scene that really made me like question everything was the scene where like after they escape and he gets thrown into solitary and then she shows up and they have sex, which all signs point to obviously this is in his head, except that there are things that happen like later where she like the conversation they have later, like, and he just says like, but you're pregnant, like the baby, and like all this stuff, and she just like doesn't address it like in either direction. But I'm just like, this is the thing I don't like because I don't know if I can trust what's happening. Just as a viewer, I can deal with a liar for a character, but I can't deal with a character themselves not knowing what's real and what's not. Like this is it's too much. What's happening?
I get that.
As an
And
aside, also, oh, there you go.
oh.
There you go.
No, I was going to say that your takes about setting rules and then abiding by them is helping me appreciate media more thoroughly as I'm consuming more and more of it. Um, as an aside, before your aside, Hem and I are watching Grey's Anatomy, and there are some rules that the show like establishes and still abides to them like 2 or 3 seasons in. I hope it stays that way for the fucking 20 seasons that show's been on. It's fucking ridiculous. Um,
I think the main rule is that there is a terrorist attack on this poor hospital once a season. I think that's like the core pillar.
but throwing this unreliable narrator into that as well, like, hey, did the terrorist attack at the courthouse even happen? You know, because should we trust him? Should we not trust him? But that was never necessarily introduced early on, because in the first Joker, I'm pretty sure there's a scene early on where something happens and then they go back and then people act like that never existed. And so the idea of the unreliable narrator is set in place and then starts to circle back into itself. Um, like even Sophie's testimony is the fact that he broke into her house because he
Yeah,
thought that he had this whole relationship. And the first movie does it so well to show you that that never was a thing. And there really isn't anything in this second movie to let you know that this isn't happening besides the musical numbers.
yeah. And
This is
her
also
actively smoking
not.
while being pregnant.
Yeah. Well,
It's the 70s.
Okay.
And I think she's into him because like it's to the point where the lawyer has to get involved too. Like I don't think it's unreliable in that kind of sense. In a way, there it could still be. My thing was this movie cost 3 times as much as the first one did.
Lady Gaga and the set
Musical
pieces.
numbers.
That
Musical numbers.
Don't.
Those one and done set pieces, dude. The whole like 70s talk show, the whole rooftop.
They had the talk show in the first movie,
It's a different talk show though.
but
And
like
also the first movie was like, you know,
these
6
are
years ago.
Like
That soundstage got torn down. I promise.
Yeah, 100%. Dude, there was like so many productions
them
in between
to-
the first and the second one.
there's no, y'all need to stop defending these corporations wasting money. The fuck is wrong with you all? Like this movie costs
And I can ask
$200
the
million
same question to
and it
you,
takes
Dylan,
place
like-
in 2 scenes. There's a few other God, I think they can find a soundstage in Los fucking Angeles to make it look like a talk show in the 70s and not spend $50 million while doing it. Like come
But
on, guys.
I disagree.
Joe Biden's America, dude.
Okay. I didn't know
I
that you just
disagree
got
too.
off from the fucking vice president debate stage to record this podcast.
Things cost, I think, a lot more than you think they cost.
100%.
Maybe, but I just don't think it. I
No,
don't think
definitely.
this movie costs fair. I don't think this movie costs $200 million, and I think that I think it could probably have costed a hell of a lot less. This movie costs more than Dune. Okay, I want to say that this movie costs more than Dune by a significant amount of money.
Which
Both
one?
of them. Both of them. So you tell me which one it is.
I hear you. I want to start
The
by
first
saying
Dune was 165. Chill out.
And this one was 200. That's a huge
Dune
difference.
2 was 190, bro. Chill out. Dune 2 was 190.
Okay, and then that means this movie still costs more than that. And do you like
$10
and
million
look at the
is
cast?
nothing.
But look at the cast of the second Dune movie and the cast list. There's 15 more people that are major players. That's crazy. This movie cost $200 million, and like that matters.
why.
And the overarching these big swinging things, and it causes movies to be less risk averse, or they're gonna be more risk averse. I'd say they're gonna take less risks, more fucking big stars, more fucking slop, just bullshit slop. There's no reason why this movie should cost this much money. It doesn't even look good in half the scenes. That explosion looked like shit. Explosion looked awful. Looked embarrassing for a $200 million movie.
I hear you. I'm gonna let it go because I don't care about the other side as much as you care about this side. I will just say it's not dollars I'm spending.
But it's dollars
Fair.
you're impacted by. As a fan of cinema.
Sure, but in the climb, in the ladder to get to the 100 million, 200 million, 300 million dollar movies, there's a lot of stuff in between. And I don't think that I'm not going to allow myself to be affected or impacted as heavily by them spending all this money, knowing how much money gets spent on smaller projects that I've worked on myself personally that are, yes, a fraction of the budget. But when I consider what I do, it's still a crazy amount of money.
In a world where the creator costs $80 million, almost 3 hour long sci-fi movie with like absolutely top tier special effects. And you're going to tell me then that Joker 2 cost almost 3 times that. And I think that is that has implications on a variety of things for people's jobs, how movies get made, things like that. Someone somewhere is making money off of these budgets that are fucking ballooning. There's no reason why these movies should cost this much money other than just inflation. That is just something that you can just like wave a magic wand over. There's movie money is being wasted somewhere, and eventually these studios are going to have to care at some point because it's insanity.
And I hear you. This
Which
is also
defense
the same
contracts.
studio. This is the same studio that shelved an entire film,
Yeah.
several
Two.
films.
What was the second one? Acne. Oh, and Batgirl. Okay.
Acme
yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not
movies
here to defend
that
Zaslav
were
at all.
made here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did it for taxes. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm not trying to justify why they're spending all this money, but also it is completely out of my control. I can be
Yes,
responsible when I get to that level, or like, as I go and make sure that like if I'm in a more like as I wear more of the creative hats and I'm making those decisions, yeah, I want to like be smart about how I spend the money, but there's what can be said or done about why Dune 1 or whichever, why the Dunes were 160 to 190 million and this movie was 200 million.
Sure, but they're like just because I don't have the power to change something, that doesn't mean I shouldn't be upset about it. You know what I mean?
I don't think you should be this upset about it, is what I'm saying.
That's fair.
I get
Let me
being
have my emotions. Don't tell me how I should feel about something.
and I'm not saying don't be upset. I'm saying do a little check, a self
Just
check.
Peace be with you.
the budget, and also with you. Although now they say and with your spirit, I think. I don't know. I'm a bad Catholic. Anyways,
Come on, Catholic update.
uh, I
I,
just
I get I get
the
what you're
budget
saying, dude.
industrial complex. It's just it's
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
another
yeah, yeah.
20 billion to Israel. Like it's just what are we doing?
Yeah. No, it's definitely some budget fuckery because these people are budget fucking. It's kind of like how everything is expensive after COVID because they're making up their losses. I get you. There's sure it might not have needed to cost $200 million, but movies are also expensive, and we're also not in charge. So I get you. I get both of you.
If
The
this
Joe
movie was good, I
Brandon's
wouldn't be
America
upset
was a bit
about
of
it.
a meme.
But it was
What did you
bad.
say?
Now I'm upset about it. I said
Oh.
this movie was good. I wouldn't be upset about it. I.e., Killers of the Flower Moon.
Was that expensive?
I think it was at least 200 million.
It's 3 hours.
Least. It is 3 hours. More than 3 hours.
Would you want to set up a budget to runtime ratio? Like this was his old thing. This was his old thing. It was like $1 1 hour type of thing. So if you spend $60 on a video game, you should get at least $60 or 60 hours of entertainment from a video game, which sometimes tracks, sometimes doesn't. Do you think that there should be a similar rule of thumb for either us or the audience that's listening to say like, hey, this movie, it costs X amount of money, it should have X amount of content that I should enjoy from it? Like maybe not runtime particularly, but on the scale, like you're allowed to
Some
spend
sort of
X amount of
ratio.
money for this rating. Yeah.
I I don't like the video game argument because like I've played 10-hour video games that have more of an impact on me than video games I've put 100 or 200 hours into. Although like I understand that. I understand maybe someone not wanting to spend $60 or $70 on a game that doesn't have that much content.
Star
Like
Wars
I feel like
Outlaws.
with I don't know if that's an plus or
No, that
negative.
down.
Oh.
Game sucks.
Um,
Garbo. Happily spend $60 on a Zelda game though. Bringing it back to GameStop.
um,
And Warhammer. Shout out to Warhammer. That game fucking rocks. Anyway,
Wait, the tabletop game?
the new video game that came out, Warhammer Space Marine 2.
All right.
Any other games you want to shout out?
This is the After School Gaming Club.
Hey, now we could actually. All of these other clubs should exist, by the way. They will at some point.
It's the After School Podcast Network, dude. We got to get there now.
Am I
I'm
good?
looking at Warhammer.
Am I good to answer the question that was asked of me?
Yes, go.
I maybe because it like there obviously like things like CG and like stuff like that like matters into this. Yes, there's music licensing. I cannot imagine the licensing for a bunch of these musicals cost all that much money. And I think if I'm going in to see a movie, hey, this is a $200 million movie, and it's got two sets. Yes, there's a couple musicals and things like that. Sure, I hear you, but if I was a cinematographer or anyone in the like effects department or anything, I would not want my name attached to that for that price point. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
We will circle back to this when the F1 movie comes out, and if I am disappointed, I will be as angry as you are.
I don't think it. I mean, I think the movie's still gonna look. That movie looks good. And I trust what's his name, Joseph Kozlowski or whatever you say his name, the guy that shot Top Gun. Like that movie looks good. visually.
Vaughn, your take on this proposal?
On the ratio in general.
Yeah, the budget to enjoyment ratio.
Um, I don't think it. I don't think it holds weight personally. Um, and I think some of it is the experience, but I've gone to black box theater and like in a a cheap 40 seater and have like bawled my eyes out at some shows. And I've gone to see shows that like were on Broadway. I've seen stuff on Broadway. I've seen stuff like that has gone touring. And when I think about like, okay, I paid, and actually, great example, Hollywood Fringe, was just a couple months back, and I was, those tickets, were between $10 and $20 to go see a show, and a lot of it was like artists like bearing their soul. So I'm like getting a great story compared to uh, to say it officially on pod, since we're talking musicals and stuff. I do not like the musical Carousel. It is it is one of my, shout out to my friend Alyssa,
Drag 'em.
who knows that she and I kind of share this disdain for this musical. But I could see it
Why don't
on
you like
Broadway.
Carousel?
Hmm.
Because
Why
it
do you
goes
like
around in
Carousel?
circles.
A plus.
That was good.
Fucking
That was
S tier.
the story is boring to me. The music is just okay. I'm not a big Rogers and who's that? Rogers and Hart, Hammerstein, I think. I just the book doesn't do it for me, and the numbers don't do it for me. I for me to go see that, even if there was like a Broadway revival cast of it, those tickets would cost me $200, $400, 10 times as much, and I'm not going to get a 10 times greater experience. I'm not even going to get a twice as good experience. Like, it's a lot of it is so subjective, but I just don't think the budget to experience ratio helps.
And I would also, for me personally, probably the lower the budget, the more I'm most likely going to like the movie.
Kinds of goodness. 15
I don't
mil.
remember how much that movie cost. $50 million. Damn, that's pretty solid.
15 million.
To be fair, it looks like he shot that movie with his iPhone. Just like, hey, let's pick this up. Let's see what this looks like, and then just.
All right, let's
Saved.
use it. Moving on.
Yeah,
Wait,
exactly.
what?
But 15 mil, yeah.
I mean, I think Poor Things is was
You
relatively.
could tell me that movie cost 150, and I believe it.
Yeah, it cost 35. So
No shot. Wow.
there's something going on. It's not
Maybe
exactly
we should
like
instead
like
of
Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, Willem Dafoe are inherently small names, and that was financed by Amazon, by a streamer, which historically pay more. I'm just saying.
But also, like,
What's
there's
the deal with movie budgets? Sorry.
all of this is, I think, moot because I overall didn't enjoy those films. Period. Like, Poor Things was fine. Kinds of Kindness was, as I will continue to say on record, wildly
Ron was
irresponsible.
radicalized.
Like,
You got to claim dog shit, dude.
I would
Join the dog shit
rather-
circle.
no,
Like,
because I do think, like, obviously, like, just like I'm like, no to those films, didn't have a good time. Dylan clearly did. And I don't think,
not Kinds of Kindness.
but Poor Things,
I
like,
didn't like that. Yeah. I like
Just
weird, dark
to say that-
shit. It's just different. We like different shit.
and I think to that point, like, I am more than happy to say something wasn't for me, or this thing didn't resonate, or I feel like something's execution was challenging, but I can't give any piece of art a blanket like this was dog shit.
That's fair.
Knowing the millions of dollars, no matter what movie we're talking about, that went into whatever project, and like and moreover, the hundreds of lives that were, got paid off doing the work and that put their heart and soul into whatever part of the work they did. So I can be critical on like song choice or acting choices or whatever, but I can't in my heart like give something a stamp of like bad, terrible, and not to say
I
that you
respect
should or
that.
shouldn't. Like
I'm
No, no, no.
legit,
I get that.
yeah.
I get that.
Bo is Afraid is dog shit. Apparently,
There we go.
That's
I will never
you
gotta
know,
watch
which like I don't, which I think is, I just don't understand this because like there's so much of that movie is really good.
There is, but it's not cohesive. And
I agree. I don't think the
Th-
movie we
this-
just watched was cohesive either.
this is just going to be the shitty movie podcast because we're talking about Megalopolis and Bo's Afraid, and to some of the people in the audience, Joker 2.
And look, if anyone,
And Poor
anyone
Things
that
and Kinds of
anyone
Kindness.
that-
Yeah, you're right.
Anyone that likes Kinds of Kindness, I want to have a conversation with you. Anyone that dislikes Poor Things, I totally get it because I was almost that person, and it like just ever so slightly won me over in the end. But like, dear Lord,
that was an uphill battle the whole way.
yeah.
I would like to propose as well at some point in the future that we have a "Hear Me Out" episode where we each pick a movie that is canonically bad, and we like go to bat.
Takers, let's go.
And I'll support you there. I actually enjoyed Taker.
Yeah, I know. I haven't watched it as an adult, only as a kid, and I'm terrified. I want that to just live as like the movie I enjoyed as like in high school, and never like go down that road again.
Unearth all these things, exhume all the bodies.
The last thing I just want to say, like, if the Joker cost the same as 7 Poor Things, we got to figure something out. We got to figure something out. We got to figure something out.
Don't play the numbers game because they're not going to help you. It's not going to serve you. It will not serve you.
Look, if no one else is saying it, I will like. If no one cares about where this money is going, then I am dead. Like I will. There needs to be something done. I don't know what it is. That's all.
What a great way to have a Gotham movie and include corruption. I get it.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. You went off on this episode. This has been your yeah. This is fantastic. You have been everything about this. To be honest, you have almost made me like this movie, which I just walked out really disliking and like being frustrated. And I don't like it. So I'll make that very clear. I did not enjoy this movie, and I'm
Close
very
enough.
frustrated at it. But I almost see your vision, and I'm frustrated, honestly, that I don't. Like it bums me out because I really wanted to I loved the first movie. Yeah.
y'all will
Talk for a minute. God damn.
Mm-hmm.
Final grades.
I'm gonna grade it. Fuck. I don't want it to be too good. I don't want to be too bad. It's definitely better than a 6. A lot of people online, I think even its IMDb rating is a 6. It's definitely better than a 6. If you're talking objectively, Joker 2, it might be like a 6.5.
Yeah, this is your reaction to a 6.5. That's crazy.
But I'm not seeing this as Joker 2, a standalone movie. I'm seeing this as, and we just spent 2 hours talking about it, whole narrative, and that's the reason why I didn't like Bo is Afraid, because that whole narrative is so disjointed. The whole experience that is Joker and this Joker universe comes to an end, a satisfying end in Joker 2. Objectively, 6.5. Overall story, solid 8. 8.5, maybe. The story of the Joker. But it's not the story of the Joker. This is Joker 2. Joker 2, 6.5. Because everything that you guys are bringing up, you can't not see those things.
Mm-hmm.
But you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You think you just saw Joker 2 without watching the first one?
We viewed this movie in the context.
Because
No,
Emma's
man,
reaction, Emma's
did you do
reaction,
like
like,
did
it
you
makes
do like a
sense, dude.
couple lines like before the filming or hitting record? I don't like. What is this? Who are you?
Dog. Yo, it's so good.
Yeah, this is
Um,
fantastic.
I'm gonna come in real quick and say I'm gonna give this film a 5 if in terms of grading. Um,
Oh my
uh,
god, did not expect that.
was that way higher than you thought?
Lower, just as you being like the Paula out of the group.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I give it. I'm gonna give it a 5. I'm gonna say, mind you, it's like a 5 on the parabola like experience. So if we're doing the numbers right, that would be like a 7 out of like if -10 is like a full on 0. But obviously, the parabola works differently. Anyway, um, grading wise, I'm gonna give
You
it a
can't.
pass.
Damn, pass no pass. You're gonna give it a pass.
I'll give it a pass.
I get that.
A solid C. And then
It'd
the
be
room
like
for
this.
improvement is more relevant songs to help tie in the narrative and like for the audience.
This assignment was to write. So there's 2 semesters. There's first semester, second semester. Joker 1 was the first semester final. Joker 2 was the second semester final. And this student decided to build upon their thesis of the original first semester. Objectively, the thesis alone, not that solid, but when you put the two together, top
Okay.
tier.
it's like a 5.5, 6 for me. This is a D plus, and this is like I'm gonna pull you into the office. I'm gonna like turn the chair around, cool teacher, and like lots of red ink. Show you why this didn't work and how you can fix this. There's a good movie in here, but this ain't it.
And then as the student slips you a $20 bill, what are you doing? Mr. Man, quick. Did you say that's a D plus or was that a B plus?
Yeah, that would just be like immediately sliding back and be like, "You need this more than me."
I don't know, man. What grade do we teach? Let me start there. What grade do we teach? I was thinking high
This
school.
is a world
You're a
where
high school teacher.
The answer to that question is yes.
this is a world where public schools are funded well.
Okay.
So you're a teacher in Connecticut. I get it.
Man, I'll have what he's having. Well, then great.
By the time this comes out, Joker should be in theaters. Go catch it. Definitely. Highly recommend it.
Don't.
I highly recommend it. The other 2 people.
Go see the movie. I recommend seeing it. It's sure.
Maybe watch the first Joker before to get like a refresher.
I think that could be worth it. Yeah, prime yourself, rewatch the first Joker, probably available on Max. I can definitely say that it's on, or at least last week, it was on available on iTunes for $5.
Oh,
I
there
love
we
a
go.
good $5 steal from iTunes.
Did you guys see
Second,
that?
like, once a week.
Did you guys see that California just signed a law to where digital markets have to disclose that you're not buying something, you're just owning the license for it?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
So you can own the license for Joker on iTunes until the servers die or Apple decides to take that money back.
I don't know if y'all have seen this, but because of the power outages all over the Southeast, like physical media is like being completely sold off the shelves from like Walmart and shit like that because like people don't have internet to stream and like just relying on generators for like base power and shit. So
That's crazy. I just bought a I guess a Blu-ray. I bought my first ever Blu-ray last week.
I just
Your
bought a Blu-ray
first
player.
ever Blu-rays?
More expensive.
Mhm.
We have fucking PlayStations and Xboxes. Why the fuck would I need to buy a Blu-ray player? But I bought my own Blu-ray player too.
No, I
Wait,
don't
no,
have a
no,
Blu-ray
your
player.
first.
This is my first Blu-ray. Period. I've
Oh,
had
Yeah,
DVDs.
that's why I'm so
I've
shocked,
never had a
dude.
Blu-ray.
wait, what?
Are you
Yeah.
a Laserdisc guy?
I'm a digital guy. Most of my stuff is digital. This one
Digital.
movie that I really want to get was only available as as physical media.
What movie was it?
Digimon,
Nice.
the OG Digimon movie, which apparently
Uh,
I didn't realize the movie I saw in theaters was really three movies cut up into one movie. But there are three full narratives that I never got a chance to see. So I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'm buying this DVD.
Did it come with a code, or did you have to buy like an Xbox?
It's technically pre-ordered. I don't get it till December.
Oh,
That's awesome.
well, get yourself an Xbox or a PS5.
I have a PS5, so I'm not worried there.
Oh, there we go.
Now I own a Blu-ray movie.
I bought a Panasonic Blu-ray player when we moved apartments.
Don't you have a PS5 too?
I have a PS5 and an Xbox One.
Ooh, fancy.
PS5 is not plugged in.
And this guy talks about budgets.
But I am. Ask me how much I paid for that PS5.
No,
Okay.
$200 million.
As well, yeah, I'd be like, yeah, I paid $7,500, and you're like, well, I don't know, man. The Blu-ray licensing, it's expensive, and like,
You and I both know the PS5 doesn't have games to license that much, dude.
what my Xbox does. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But no, I have a whole collection of stuff just like within arm's reach. Yeah.
Yeah, I left mine at home, but I do also have a collection of stuff.
And I've got a bunch of A24 ones too. Yeah.
nerd.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram. Send us emails. Text us. Call us. Let us know what you want us to watch. Let us know what you don't want us to watch.
And if you're catching this before October 5th, come say hi at my panel.
And tell Vonnie needs to listen to the Beatles.
Sure.
Class dismissed.